I hope you guys are having an awesome week. Hello, welcome to the Coffee Creators Podcast. If this is your first time listening, welcome. My name is Michael. I am your host, and I am a full-time content creator that started my journey on Instagram about almost 3 years ago. I used to be a graphic designer, and the pandemic happened and all that stuff, and I kind of just stumbled into making podcasts and content creation. Not stumbled, but I dabbled in it, and then I got too deep into the rabbit hole, and here I am today. So welcome to the podcast. And if you are wondering where my co-host Chelsea is, she is on vacation, so it's just going to be me running the show. But it's all good because I'm not going to be lonely today since I have a special guest. And my special guest today is Hazel of Medium Phormat. Hazel, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to finally talk to you.
I know. I'm excited to have you. I mean, we've been friends on Instagram for a little bit now, maybe a few months, right? Like a few months, yeah.
Probably a year, maybe like
You think so? Has it been a
under
year?
a year. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So just before I let Hazel speak, I just want to share what how I know Hazel. So Hazel was I found her on Instagram, and I think she messaged me or she commented in one of my photos, and I checked her photos, and I was just like, this person is amazing. Like, their work is so good. And I think I said something like, you should make some more. And it was basically that. And since then, I've been following her. And yeah, it's just really inspiring stuff, really, really good. And I honestly think more people need to see your stuff. So Hazel, if you don't mind, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, so my name is Hazel. I run the Instagram account Medium Phormat. I'm a product photographer, so Medium Phormat is essentially like my product photography company. And I started like posting seriously on Instagram since last October. So I would say this month is like the 1 year anniversary. And Michael probably found me a few months after I started posting. So I've known his account for quite a while, but yeah, on Instagram I post a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I try to give more information to other product photographers, like I post a lot of breakdowns to teach you, the way that I'm shooting my own photos. So that's essentially what I'm known on Instagram. But it's really cool because I've been following Michael for a while, and when you hear someone's podcast a lot of the time, like you kind of feel like you know them. So me and Michael are already hitting it off. We're already having a good chat, and it's pretty cool to actually sit down and talk with him right now. And like I said, we've been following each other on Instagram for a little while, and that's essentially how we know each other. We're just like social buddies.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's so cool because you saying that, I feel the same way because I listen to your podcast as well. So Hazel also runs her own podcast.
Yeah.
And I was just listening to her last episode this morning, and I still get that feeling, when I hear someone online and I see their stuff and I actually, talk to them or speak with them, I still get that, like the jitters.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what I'm saying. It's
Absolutely.
still like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
But yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Of course.
Hazel, I just wanted to ask you. So, when did you find out that product photography was your thing?
Well, I started off in 2016, I made a commitment to like forget all the 9 to 5s. I wasn't going to do 9 to 5s. I was just going to work for myself and try to figure that out. So I was doing like social media marketing and internet marketing, which was like super boring because you're like on social media all the time trying to figure out the trends. And that was super boring. And then I don't know how, but I started getting into I started looking at more photographers on Instagram, like a few years after starting working for myself. And I was just noticing like I could probably take good photos like this. Like let me just try taking photos myself. And, from there, I started getting into portrait photography. I was learning a lot of lighting for portraits specifically. And then I started getting into wedding photography. And honestly, like I would shoot product stuff, like lifestyle product stuff every now and then for local companies. But it wasn't something that I was really dedicated to doing. I was mostly focusing on wedding photography because like I could make a lot of money with wedding photography, and I was just going to focus on that. So ever since like the pandemic hit, I ended up having to refund a bunch of wedding couples, for their weddings that were over the course of the pandemic because, they had to cancel their wedding. And I was just thinking like, how can I work from home and still like shoot photos, like shoot stuff that I like. And like I said, of course, I was shooting product photos beforehand, but I wasn't taking it as seriously. So the pandemic really it just boosted everything for me to just really focus on product photography. And ever since then, I was like, I'm just going to go all in on this and just start finding clients, because I'm the type of person that once I figure out what I want to do, I just go all in and I just start, finding people, talking to people, trying to figure stuff out. And that's essentially how it started. I would say a few years ago, I mean, of course, like I said, the pandemic really like started it off. And, I was doing product photography before then, but yeah, I've been doing it for a little while right now. And that's essentially how I got into it.
That's a really cool story because, and a lot of people can relate to that. I can definitely relate to that because a lot of times when people see your work, they assume that you've always known what you were going to do. You've always like you've figured it out basically from an early stage, but it's not really the case.
No.
And I thought I was alone in that situation where, people will see and say, oh, Michael, he knows what he's doing. He has a podcast. He has an Instagram account. He has a YouTube. I'm like, no, I don't know what I'm. Here's the real test, And I think this is why I believe. Actually, I think I had this conversation with Liz recently. So Liz of Liz Loves Tech.
It's a tongue twister.
So yeah, I know, I know. She told me that she gets imposter syndrome. And I said, that's actually something that everyone experiences. I don't know anyone who doesn't experience that at all. And the biggest test for me was, the way I see it is, when I was younger, I always assumed that my parents could do no wrong. Like they knew exactly what to do. They knew everything, every decision that even I was supposed to make on my own. I had to defer to my parents. I'd ask them, I said, what should I do? And it's because I felt like they knew exactly what they were doing. But now as a parent myself, I just realized that they were just winging it.
Yeah, they're just going with emotions.
They're just going with emotions. And I'm like, this is hilarious and comforting at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it makes you realize that we're all human. And the only time that you can actually call someone an expert is if they've gone through it so many times that they can look back and know what they did right or what they could improve on. But that's the only time you can really call them an expert. But, for me, I've done so many things, but I'm still way too young in the game to know that I know everything, right? Yeah. So hearing that story, Hazel, was just, it hit me because I feel like a lot of people don't realize that. And, I appreciate you sharing that. Also, there's something that you said that I liked. And I want to kind of talk about this for a little bit. And when you said that, when you figured something out that you thought, basically what you thought was interesting enough for you, you go all in. And there's a lot of people that I encounter almost on a daily basis where they say, I want to try something, but I'm too afraid to go all in. So I'm going to keep my foot in one, in this side of the door. And basically examples would be, I'm working at a job that I don't like, but I want to try my hand on running my own business, whether it's online or an actual physical place. But they always say, I'm just going to try it a little bit, just in case it doesn't work. You know what I mean? I'll stick to this one. What are your thoughts on that? Like, should people have one foot back and be like, I'm just going to try it for a little bit, and just in case it doesn't work, I still have this to go back to?
So what I'm going to say about that is, like, of course, like you want to have something to keep you stable and to keep you safe. And of course, like I would recommend like you keep that stability and make sure like you have a fallback if anything goes wrong. But like really, if you really want to like pursue this side of your life and really want to pursue this aspect of, running your own business or just doing something that you love that's completely different from like your 9-to-5 or what you get paid a salary for, like it's really important to really figure out if you can like allocate enough time to that, or if you're able to like pause, your stable job for a little while and really go all in on, this one thing that you're really interested in. Because the thing is, when you're really interested in something and you're really passionate about something, and you have that drive, it's 100% possible for you to make it succeed. Whether you want to be an artist or you want to be on Instagram or anything that you want to do, if you really put like your all into it, it's definitely possible for you to succeed. And I'm not going to say, if you work hard, you'll get everything and everything's going to work out. That's not the case. Like for me, for example, when I started working for myself, I had a really good job. I was making a good amount of money every year. And yeah, I was just over it. I was over working in an office, and I was over dealing with people. And I'm the type of person, like I was saying earlier, I just get rid of everything and I just start focusing on what I want to do. So that's what I did. And I'm not saying, that's going to work for everyone, but there were definitely times when we were struggling with money because I wanted to do this. I wanted to make this decision, and my husband was like just supportive of me, even though we weren't making as much as we were, when I was working. So it's really a struggle in the very beginning. But if you're able to, maybe save up some money for a few months or like do anything like that, any way that you can save and actually focus on this craft that you're trying to build. Because at this point in time, like the most valuable aspect of your life that you have is your time. Because think about it, you want to spend the rest of your life doing something that's stable and something that you don't really like, but it gets the bills done? Or do you really want to be happy and do something that you love? And if it fails, at least you know that you tried. And it's okay if you're struggling with money. It's okay if you're struggling and not everything is working out. It's going to be that way in the beginning. But I'm a huge believer in doing what you love and just saying fuck it to whatever else you're focusing on, and just focus on what you love and try to work and build that up. Because like I said, the most valuable thing that you have is your time in this point in time. And I remember when I first started working from home, a lot of people would tell me like how are you doing that? How are you working from home? I want to do that. And I would give them the advice, but really they would be like too scared to actually try it, or they wouldn't want to take that risk, which is totally okay. I'm not judging anyone who doesn't do that, but I just really encourage people to work for themselves and really, like, I wouldn't say like try to be an entrepreneur. Like, you don't have to do all that, but just focus on one thing that you really love. And if you go like head first into it and you learn all the ways that you can actually make money from it, it'll happen. Like, you can, like I said, everything takes hard work and everything comes in time. So it's not going to be easy, but if you really want to do it, at least take some time away from whatever you're doing at this point and really focus on that. I mean, it's worth a shot.
Definitely. That's very good advice, because I think that the problem with society in general is that, like, especially our generation, like I'm going to include myself in this generation, even though I'm older, but I'm going to include myself because I experienced this. I experienced the whole, boom of social media and, the internet basically. And we've been almost like, not trained, but we've been conditioned to expect things at a very rapid, very short time frame. For example, like my example, I was talking to a friend and he lives in the Philippines. So he was telling me of this product that he ordered online, and he's like, oh yeah, it was quick too. I got it in 2 weeks. And I started laughing.
Oh, wow.
I started laughing. I'm like, wow, that's quick. I felt bad, but he's like, why are you laughing? I'm like, because I get pissed when Amazon doesn't deliver my thing in like 3 days. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm such a spoiled person nowadays, and that's the thing, right? Like when you were saying it's going to be a struggle. I know a lot of people who are listening to this the moment they heard that word struggle, they start to get the jitters. They start to get cold feet. I'm like, I don't want to experience discomfort. I just want to stay in this comfortable job. But ask yourself this question, the question that Hazel just said. Are you happy? Are you happy? You only have your time. That's the only thing that we all have, right? Time. That's the most valuable thing that we have. You can stay at that job that you don't like for the rest of your life, and you can call it comfortable if you want. I mean, you can convince yourself it's comfortable if you want. Yeah. This is not to confuse people who are happy with their jobs. Yeah. We're not saying that you should quit your job and do your own thing. What we're saying is, if you're not happy, if you want to do something else, don't limit yourself, because you might be missing out on such a beautiful experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We're not even talking about success. We're just talking about the beauty of life in general. Because let's face it, I could, I could just keel over and die tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know, but at least I've worked my life. Like I've made some effort to try to make my life wonderful and beautiful and happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's all that matters. We all want to have financial freedom. We all want to have just like, actually think about this. Like, Hazel, what do you think? Like, if I were to ask you, what would be the number one, and there's no wrong or right answer here, but I want to know what would be the number one goal for you if you were like, why you're doing all this? Like, why do you want to succeed? Why do you want to have all the things that you want to have?
Honestly, my main drive, like just for everything that I do in life, is just to be able to live comfortably with my family, because I'm like a big family person. I personally didn't grow up with a family, so once I married my husband, I inherited his family, and he's got like a really strong family. It just made me realize, like, this what he has is more important than anything else. And just like what I'm doing, this online stuff, it's keeping me happy, and it's keeping me able to stay home and work on my family and stay stable with my husband, and we're just able to do more things and spend more time together. Because if I was working a 9 to 5, some job that I didn't like, I wouldn't have as much free time as I do right now. Like, that's my big thing. Like, my husband always says, maybe I should get a job. Like, for him, he would say, maybe I should get a job, so that we don't have to work so hard on this business stuff. And I'm just like, well, if you get a job, like you're going to be miserable at the job, and I won't even see you. And that's what's really important to me, being able to see my family, spend time with them, and have the means to just, live better than how my parents lived. Because, your parents always want a better life for you. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to set up a better life, or, set up these business stuff for my kids, and my future generation. And that's really what's most important to me, just family and being able to spend time with them.
I love that. I definitely 100% agree.
Yeah.
Because that's also, it's actually, my reasoning is, I always have this conversation with my wife. I say, the only reason I'm working this hard is that so that in the future, I don't have to work as hard, and I can spend most of my time with you and the kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really the goal. Like, the goal is to work hard right now so that I can have more time in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because when you said that, like, yeah, you can go back to a job and go clock in and clock out every day, but imagine doing that for like 30 years.
Yeah, I know.
How much time have you missed?
I know.
And I don't know to this day anyone who would ever say, man, I wish I spent more time at work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all have a bigger goal. We all have a bigger dream. And I think pursuing that isn't a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. I think everyone should at least try to pursue whatever it is that makes them happy, right? So I love your answer, because I really feel the same way. I just want to spend more time with my kids. My dad was a workaholic. He always worked. And this is a funny story I've shared before in the past, but the last time when he was still alive, I drove him to LA, and he was, I don't remember how old he was, but I was in my 20s already. And I drove him from San Diego to LA, and it's a 2-hour drive. But I realized that he was so busy throughout my childhood that we had nothing to talk about.
Oh, wow.
Like, I love my dad, and he loves me. There's no question about it. We have a good relationship, but our relationship was mostly silent.
Yeah.
So it was a very awkward drive. I'm like, what do I say? You know what I mean? It's one of those. It's so funny.
It makes the drive feel longer too.
Oh my God, it felt like 4 hours. It was like, I'm going to miss my dad. As soon as I dropped him off, I'm like, I'm going to miss my dad, but thank God that's over. I was so stressed. But, and it's one of the things that I don't want my kids to experience. I want them to know what daddy's doing.
Yeah.
I want them to see me and look back and be like, oh yeah, I had awesome memories with dad. You know what I mean? And that's it. That's really the simple goal. It's for them. I just want more time with them, honestly. And, being locked in a job that requires most of my time, most of my day, because that's what jobs are. Most of your day is going to be spent doing something for someone. And that's not a bad thing. But if what's important to me is spending time with my family, because guess what? Like, even if I work for a regular 8-hour job, right? I leave in the morning, I come back, and I only have 2 or 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours
Mm-hmm.
to, if at most, to spend with my family.
Yeah.
That's not even time spent on myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? We all go to sleep.
I know.
And then the next day, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
8 hours every day, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours goes to someone else.
Yeah.
And then the 2 or 3 hours that goes to your family, that's a lot.
My
So I don't know how we got to this topic,
no,
but
I no. It's helpful to talk about this because my best friend, she's like a pharmacy technician, and she works in like one of those homeopathic clinics, and like everyone just it's one of those clinics where it's all girls and they all gossip and they all like talk trash about each other. So it's kind of a hostile work environment for her.
okay.
And she's
Yeah.
at this job all day, working like 10 hours a day, and her husband's working too, and they have someone babysitting their baby, and then they come back home and they can't even spend time together. Like she's still a wife and a mom, so she has to like she has to prepare everything for the kids, make sure her husband and her baby are okay, not really have any time for herself because as soon as she wakes up in the morning she has to care for the baby, and then she has to go off for work. And even on the weekends, like by that point, like they're both so drained that they don't even want to go out and do anything as a family. Like they just want to stay home, and like they just don't have energy yet. I know really that they want to do these things outside. They want to spend more time together. And like I tell them, I can help you set up this online stuff. Like you can work virtually, you can do this and that. And luckily at this point they're actually going to move out here to Maine with us so that we can all be together, because they see
Oh,
it's
cool.
in this day and age, like it's really important to keep your friends and your family really close because you can see what kind of crazy people are out there. And
Yeah.
yeah, we all realize that we work better when we're all together. And I want to help them uh, figure out that whole work from home lifestyle, or just figure out a way to they can be financially stable and still able to spend time with their family, because that's just so important. Like your time is the most valuable thing. And
It
I'm the
is.
type of
Yeah.
person, I just really encourage like work from home stuff or working for yourself, because it's just so much more beneficial being able to work that way.
Absolutely. I can relate to that so much because my wife is she works very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And there were weeks actually in the last few months. I mean, she works in the medical field, so it's understandably super busy,
Mm-hmm.
especially right now. So she came home super stressed, and she doesn't have enough energy and time for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Not even for me. I mean, I'm a grown ass man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I want to spend more time with her, but I won't. I understand why
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't want to, because she's so tired. And I kind of just had to remind her. I said, "Listen, you can keep doing this and feel like you did a good job at work, but I think the kids would really like it if mommy comes home
Mm-hmm.
um, with enough energy and that compassion
Yep.
and that love and that warmth, that they can feel like mommy's here
Yeah.
and not just someone who's really tired and irritated."
Yeah, because that can
And
really
so,
drain you and just stress you out, and then you're stressed at
yeah.
home.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it's such an interesting life to live to be in right now, like an interesting time
Mm-hmm.
that working from home has become normal,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's important for people to really consider it. I mean, honestly, when we were younger, especially me when I was younger, like the only reason that a 9 to 5 was acceptable was because it's just the norm.
Yeah.
It's not a rule.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not a rule. And here's an example. I remember my dad, he used to have business partners abroad. So he would have partners on like a different timeline. I mean, different time zone, different countries.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Christmas time. And that particular part of the world didn't celebrate Christmas, and they didn't have the same holidays and all that stuff. And I remember he was working really hard, and my mom got mad at him, and she's like, "You need to spend time with us. It's Christmas."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, but they're busy right now." And she's like, "You have to tell them. You have to tell them that our culture, our lives have these things, right, like
Mm-hmm.
in place, and it's not because their timeline. I mean, they don't celebrate it. Doesn't mean that they can't respect yours, right? Like your thing. And if you really think about it, like that's kind of it's an interesting view, it's a realization for me that nothing is really set on stone. Like no one said that everyone has to work a certain day or doesn't have to work a certain day. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is we should be able to adapt to it, right? Like if you are able to work from home, why not? And it's pretty cool that companies nowadays are starting to realize that. And I think people need to look at it from perspective that it's not to make your job easier, but I think to add a little bit more meaning and value to your day. And it's not just about making everything easier because it doesn't really make it
no,
easier.
it kind of makes it harder than you're sitting on the couch
It
and you don't
actually
want to
does,
work.
Oh yeah, totally. Like imagine like the distraction like that, and
Yeah.
it's so hard to get your mindset out of the like the I'm from home. I'm at home and I need to work. Like look at me right now. I'm wearing a shirt. I don't have to wear a shirt, not because I'm also doing a podcast, but I mean I have to wear a shirt. I can't be naked. My point is I don't have to wear a nice shirt.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, it helps me get into that mindset that I need to work. That's why I have to set up my office so that when I walk in, it's work time, right? So I don't know. It's just a really, really, I guess it's just a topic that I never really talk about with other people. That this conversation kind of, we kind of just fell into this conversation. I had to spew all of that out. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay. Hazel, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your Instagram journey, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know from recent news, based on what you've been sharing, is that you amazingly just grew your account like crazy fast. Crazy fast. And there are a lot of like benefits to it. And there are a lot of like, I'd say negatives.
Yeah.
And from hearing your last podcast, like I got a glimpse of the negatives, right? So what I want to talk about is the highs and lows of social media and how it's affected you and your business. Can you share a little bit more about like how has it helped Medium Format and how has it kind of, I don't know, thrown a monkey wrench into the whole, work?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Yeah.
So I started taking Instagram really seriously like last year in October, and my husband was just encouraging me, like, just take it seriously, see what would happen. And I had this whole plan for Medium Format, and once I started posting on Instagram, it just completely changed. Like, I ended up starting to post a lot more behind the scenes stuff, and a lot of people would like that. And as I'm posting, I'm just like, okay, how do I make my content different from everyone else's content? And I would just try to brainstorm. And, back in that time, like a year ago, I had so much time to think about these things. And yeah, I figured out that behind the scenes, a lot of people like to see that. And I worked out my own like format for doing stuff like that. And that was just how I was posting. I was posting a bunch of behind the scenes stuff. A lot of people were liking it. And that was about the time that Instagram Reels like really started to ramp up and everyone was starting to use it more often. And I was like, again, trying to figure out how am I gonna like utilize these reels, because I forgot who it was on Instagram, but I had like maybe a few hundred followers, and they messaged me and they were like, you should like look into like how to grow on Instagram videos on YouTube. Like there's this one woman that he recommended me to, and I watched her videos, and yeah, I realized that it's not just about posting and engaging and all that. There's like actual stuff that you have to do, like actual work that you have to put into it. So from there, like I realized, okay, like these are really good tips, and it helped my account grow into like the thousands. Like I hit a 1,000, I think, something like that. And yeah, I was focusing more on reels because everyone just kept talking about reels, how reels are gonna be really big and really popular. So I was trying to figure out how am I gonna make this behind the scenes stuff like work for Instagram Reels, because I take photos, I don't do videos. So it was really tricky to figure out that good middle ground where it's not just me posting like photo animations and it's actually something that you can interact with for the Instagram Reels. And I figured it out. I was posting some stuff, and next thing you know, like I think I just hit like 2,000. Like at that point I had a really strong I would say, place in the community where people knew who I was. And that's what I mean by strong. Like they can tell that it's my account, or they can tell that it's my style when they're scrolling through the feed. And it was really cool because they were like supporting me and helping me grow. So the only reason why I hit that 2K mark was because like people were shouting me out. And I was growing on Instagram that way. And from there, I remember I posted reels, like some reel, and I just posted it like I wasn't thinking it's gonna blow up or it's gonna get trending or anything. And next thing you know, it blew up. And I think blowing up back in that time was like 300K. But from there, I hit 5K on Instagram followers, and I was just like, okay, like I really need to focus on these real stuff because that's what's popular right now. And you know, of course, I was struggling. Like, okay, how do I post these reels, but also post like my photo breakdowns without it just being like, you know, I'm posting photos and no one's looking at the photos, they're just looking at the videos. And it was just like, you know, all the technical stuff, all the boring stuff about Instagram. And after a while, honestly, I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna post whatever I want. And I just started to post whatever I want, whatever I liked. And yeah, like one video went viral on Instagram Reels. It hit like 1.3 million, something like that.
What?
And I like literally like within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I hit like 10K. And once I hit 10K, like that was like my goal. Like that was the number that I wanted to hit, just to see like that I could actually grow the account. And yeah, once I hit 10K, like I started to take it a lot more seriously, and then I started growing to 20K. And honestly, once you hit that growth, the downsides, like the good part is like, yeah, I was actually getting clients now. A lot of my long-term clients right now are actually from them seeing me on Instagram, you know, them liking my work and they reach out. So that is definitely a benefit because that was the whole plan for Medium Format. You know, I wanted to get clients from them seeing my work, even though it grew into me actually teaching other photographers how to shoot photos like how I shoot them. So that was really beneficial. And yeah, like I said, my plan was to get clients. So that was happening already. So I was already starting to be like, okay, like I don't have to take it that seriously. But honestly, the downsides, like once you grow to a certain point, it gets really hard to interact with everyone and really hard to engage with people. That's why you see like million follower accounts with like really, really, really low engagement because they just can't engage with everyone, whether they try or not. It just becomes it becomes impossible at that point because you have so many people following you. And yeah, like my engagement was going down. It was becoming more and more hard to interact with people, which it still is because now I'm at the point where like I'm at a number where like it's like I don't really think about how many followers I have because I guess it still hasn't settled in like how many I have right now. I think right now I'm at 44 or something like that, 44,000. And it gets to the point where it starts feeling like it's a job. Like I'm not happy as much as I was a year ago on Instagram trying to post and trying to figure stuff out because now it's gotten to the point where it's big, where I have to like actually manage it like a business. Like it's not just for fun anymore. Like of course I post stuff that I like to post, but it's not as happy-go-lucky as it used to be. So now there's a bit more structure, which makes it, you know, it makes it into a job, and anything that's a job, it takes a lot of work, you know. And recently what happened, another huge downside is when you have a bigger account, you get targeted more by bots or like report bots or just people who want to take down your account just because they see you're a big account. I mean, honestly, I don't know what goes through these people's minds, like why they do what they do online. But like I mentioned in my last podcast, it comes with the territory. It's Instagram. Like bad stuff is going to happen. Everyone's not good. Of course, when I started Instagram, it was like a really close, tight-knit community. And then once I started to grow, I realized like, okay, this is like a diamond in the rough. Like everything else is pretty toxic out there. Like what we have is pretty special, the community that we're in. And yeah, once I hit that marker, once I hit 20K, I just grew consistently from there. And of course, with this recent move, it's been hard for me to actually post on Instagram and keep up with it as much as I would like. But over the move, I announced that I hit 30K. And yeah, like the downside of that was someone saw that I hit 30K and was like, okay, I'm going to bot your account now. So they bought like a bunch of like fake followers from my account. And essentially what that does is it makes your engagement drop, and Instagram basically stops showing your content to, you know, the same people because now it looks a little bit more spammy and your engagement's dropping. So it just makes the account look bad. So it's like now I have to deal with that. Now I have to deal with like bouncing back from stuff like that, which it's stuff that I can't control. So that's definitely a downside. I mean, you can't control it, so it's always going to be a downside.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And these are the realities of Instagram. And when we all start from on Instagram, we all have that goal,
Yeah.
right? Like to reach certain milestones. And it's funny because you and I feel very similarly about it. I think the biggest milestone for me, and honestly, the one that really meant I'd say the one that really means a lot to
Mm-hmm.
me is when I hit 10K,
Yeah, yeah.
because you're right, like that's a milestone that I was trying to go for, and everything just started like kind of cascading.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I don't appreciate it, but you're absolutely correct. Like it's somehow the bigger your account gets, the more disconnected you become with the
Yeah.
community. Like the people that you follow and admire and you love to interact
Mm-hmm.
with, suddenly you don't see them anymore. Suddenly they don't see you
Yeah.
anymore. And it does become a job.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's a job, it requires your attention.
Yeah.
So now interacting, before all you had to do was post content, like whether it's just an
Mm-hmm.
impression, a little story about your
Mm-hmm.
day or what your experience is, or just a nice photo. Now interacting with your audience becomes a full-time job,
Yeah.
and it really is a full-time
Yeah.
job. It's like I'm gonna spend 30 minutes just answering questions or
Mm-hmm.
interacting. Like 2 hours go by,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh crap, I'm not done yet. You
I
know what I mean? It's
know. Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. So I understand it. Like it's great. The when you were sharing your story about like suddenly growing, it's so awesome
Mm-hmm.
that you grew. I mean, I see it in two different ways. I see it the way you see it, like it's someone probably bought some bots
Mm-hmm.
for you or something, or it's just you were targeted by these bots because you were up and coming. You
Mm-hmm.
were like very popular, and one person liked it and shared it, and the algorithm thought, "Oh, this is something that people like," and it just reshared it. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you become a bigger target because yes, the more you grow, you do get a lot of spam. Like
Yeah.
I get a lot of like message requests from spam. Like
Yeah.
I'd say 90% of them are spam.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, to address what you were saying though, like you were saying that it's scary that someone can take down your account. And you and I know we have a common creator friend that this has happened
Mm-hmm.
to them, and you mentioned this in your last podcast, right? And it sucks
Yeah.
because it's like all the hard work that you put in, suddenly gone. And people who are away from Instagram don't look at it as a business. They just think, oh, you're just bummed out because you're
Mm-hmm.
not popular anymore.
Yeah.
No, it's not that.
Yeah.
Our businesses rely on it. Like this is advertising, right?
Mm-hmm.
If and Hazel said that her business grew as soon as she became more visible
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram. And that's really the part of the game. Like that's why you want to grow, so that you can attract your clients, you can attract more business opportunities and just, stuff. You can just grow like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I was going to say is that as long as you're spreading yourself out in a way that people can still find you. I wouldn't worry too much about the bots, honestly. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have a podcast, right? And I think that's really very, very smart, because that way your audience can still find you.
Yeah.
That's that the idea is to keep, like, the scariest thing for me is that I lose that communication with my audience. And so I've gotten to a point where it's like I do love Instagram. Instagram basically started this whole thing for
Mm-hmm.
me. But what if, just like recently, right? Facebook shut down
Yeah.
and everything shut down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, uh-oh. But luckily you all see my face
Somewhere.
everywhere. I've basically hoarded myself out to the internet at this point. So it's like, yeah, you'll hear my voice, you'll see my face,
Yeah.
you'll see my tweets. So I think as long as I know that I have some sort of reach
Mm-hmm.
somewhere, I can always make it grow.
Yeah.
And I can always have that connection with my audience. So I think, Hazel, you're doing the right thing. And, I know you're probably worried about, what if this happens? But I think you just do you. You try to serve your audience as best as you can. Like, you are doing that right now. And I just don't think the only reason I bring this up, okay? I was listening to your last podcast, and it seems like you're downplaying yourself so much.
What do you mean?
It seems like you felt like you don't deserve that many followers.
Yeah.
Which I completely disagree. I completely disagree. I'm like, why is she talking like this? So what I did was, when I was listening to that podcast, I was writing notes in my head. And this is one of the reasons, the things I wanted to bring up, like the highs and lows of social media. And the next thing that I wrote down was that I wanted to know how you keep yourself grounded, right? Because you are popular. People see you. People know your work. So now I'm wondering, is the only reason you're doing this to yourself is to keep you grounded, or am I just wrong?
Honestly, like I wouldn't say that because really like how I go about my day is like I don't really think of well, actually I think I'm contradicting myself, but when I go about my day, I don't really think about like my Instagram account or how many followers I have. I don't think about any of that. Like I just go about my day like I'm a regular person like how we were talking about before the podcast. We were talking about imposter syndrome and you mentioned that, most people on here like they have experienced that in one way, one form of another and
Mm-hmm.
like for me personally, I can't say that I've experienced that, but I think the reason is because I'm just ignoring it, like it's just not in my head. So I feel like if I was to really think about it, like my heart would just drop into my stomach and I would just feel super nervous, like, oh shit, all these people are following me. But like it's hard for me to realize like I guess the extent of what I'm building on Instagram and beyond that because yeah, I talk about it with my husband and he's always saying like, yeah, you have a lot of followers and really we're just talking about it. Like we're not really seeing this number in person. It's just something that we talk about. It's like imaginary sort of. So it's like I can't really fathom of it. I can't really fathom it because it's not in front of me. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, even when I go on Instagram, like I get DMs, like private messages saying that you really inspire me, and it kind of makes me a little nervous because I'm just like damn, now I have all this responsibility, like so I guess I just ignore
Yeah, you
it
do.
honestly. Like I think I just ignore it so that I don't have to feel that anxiety, but I don't know.
That's actually a really good thing. Okay, I mean, I'm glad you brought it up because because I didn't know how to answer that as well. Like that whole the question that I get sometimes from people that how come you don't answer everything?
Yeah.
How come you don't answer to all the comments or the
Hmm.
questions or the DMs? And I've said before that I'm just too busy, but that is actually true. Like
Yeah.
I don't have enough time. Like earlier I said you could spend hours on Instagram just interacting with
Yeah.
people, and I don't have that time,
Mhm.
right? Um, but the second thing that I never really brought up is because, like you, I'm scared
Yeah.
of the responsibility. I'm scared of facing the fact that people do, you know, feel inspired or are moved or encouraged by what you do, right? And so there's that very very scared part of me that refuses to basically acknowledge that because I want to be. I guess what I'm trying to say is that when someone says that I'm encouraged by your work, um, I want to be able to present myself to them in a way that doesn't destroy that
Yeah.
encouragement. I don't want them to think that, oh, Michael's not like he's not really that confident. Like he's actually just a regular guy.
Yeah.
So there's that fear.
Yeah.
Like and I'm like sometimes I don't know what to answer. Like I don't know what
Mhm.
to say because I'm just a regular guy, but I'm so happy that I'm glad that you guys feel that way. And sometimes I guess that's just the best thing to do. Just say thank you and move on.
Yeah, it's tough because you also want to like put a lot of you want to put a lot of effort into that response because you want them to know that you appreciate it. But then it's like
Yes.
you kind of just don't want to say the wrong thing whether you're sounding too pompous or you're being too like demeaning of yourself. So it's sometimes it's better to just leave it, like just ignore it and I don't know. I guess not that's not always a good thing because sometimes people take it the wrong way and they might not be interested in your account anymore or they might see you as like being an asshole or something, but yeah, it's just something that like we all go through. It's like a personal thing. It has nothing to do with other people.
Yeah, it's very subjective. It's
Yeah.
internal, right? It's an internal struggle. But you know what, Hazel, though, like from what I'm seeing from your branding, and when I say branding, like who Hazel is, right?
Hmm.
Like your online personality, you're very authentic and genuine, and I don't honestly think you don't have to work hard on trying to win people or convince them to stay, which is I appreciate because you're like, well, shit. Like if this is it, this is
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? That's the kind of like character that I see, which is good because there's confidence there. There's sincerity. There's authenticity. And to your point, when you said that when you lose your followers, hey, you know what? they're not meant for you. They're not for Hazel. Hazel doesn't want to spend enough time trying to win them over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not, you know what I mean? So I appreciate that. That's actually, that actually kind of goes into like my next question, which is, um, I was going to ask you how important it is to have an online presence, but you kind of covered everything from getting new clients and just connecting with your community and people who like your work and are inspired by it. I think that's very important, and there is a sense of responsibility there. But I just want to interject this one thing. Okay, my last podcast with Liz, I titled it "Everyone Feels Imposter Syndrome." So now I have to change it. I have to add a little addendum, I should say. Everyone experiences imposter syndrome except for Hazel. I have to change the title.
No, you have to do it. So everyone experiences imposter syndrome, like semicolon, unless you ignore it.
Okay, let's ignore it. I like that. I like that. Okay, well, we're reaching the top of the hour, and I don't want to take too much of your time because I know you have a very, very busy day. So I just want to ask you this one last question. If you can maybe talk a little bit about it. And that is for anyone who is encouraged by your work and inspired by you. And you may think yourself as, I'm just a regular person, but the truth is you are inspiring other people out there. And sometimes you just don't know how to express it, but they're out there. So what's the advice that you would give to aspiring photographers or just content creators in general, or anyone who just wants to go for their dream? What would you tell them?
Honestly, personally, I just really appreciate everyone that follows me on Instagram, because I know you guys follow me, like, because you're inspired by my work, or, I'm teaching you something, which I find to be really important because we need people like that. And especially if you're trying to figure yourself out and you are an aspiring photographer or creator or artist. And honestly, just practice. My main thing is just practice as much as you can, whether you want it to be like a hobby or you want it to be something really professional. You have to practice as much as you can. That's what I preach on my Instagram account. What you see on my Instagram account is me practicing, because if you notice, I don't post a lot of client stuff, and the main reason for that, which I don't know if I've ever touched up on this, but the main reason for that is because I like to keep it private with that client. Of course I have the rights to post that stuff myself, but I kind of like to keep it so that it's just theirs. But yeah, all the stuff that I post on Instagram is really just me practicing, and that's the number one thing that I tell everyone to do. That's why I can be so humble, because I'm not perfect. I'm not an expert, whether you think that I am. I'm super far from it. There's stuff that I have to work on all the time, and if I'm not putting in the work, then it's never going to get better. So if you really want to do this, and if you really want to get better at this, it really matters you practicing and just putting in the time to actually do the act of whatever it is that you like to do. Because when I was younger, I used to want to be my answer whenever I would go to the doctor about what do you want to be when you grow up, and he would ask me that, I would always say I want to be an artist. But really, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So what I ended up doing was just going to art school and painting and finding all these things, and then it took me 20 plus years to figure out that, okay, I want to be a photographer. And then once I wanted to be a photographer, it's not like it's just going to pop up and I'm going to somehow be a master and I'm going to know all the tricks if I keep watching YouTube videos. No, it's really about the hard work that you put into it and all of the effort that you put into actually learning the skill, because we have all this free information online. There's so much knowledge online that's just at your fingertips, where you can find how to do anything, that you should just be putting your all into this dream that you have, this creativity that you want to express.
Wow, that's a good way to end this podcast. I'm not even going to add anything to that. It's just beautiful. No, really, the important thing, and sometimes the most important thing is really the most boring thing, and you really said it. It's practice. You want to get good at something, you practice. None of the people that we admire, none of them became good just because even they said, tomorrow I want to be like this. It's from practice, hard work, just putting in the time. Yeah. And I think you can't give a better message than that. That's awesome. You know what, Hazel? You get this. That was nice. Really good. I like that. I'm not going to add anything more because that was awesome. So Hazel, I just want to say thank you again for finding the time to be on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh man, You don't know how this makes me feel. Like I really,
Good.
really am happy to have you here finally on the podcast.
Good.
And I wish you well on your move. I know you're not fully moved into your new location yet, so I hope everything runs
Thank
smoothly
you.
from this point on. So before I, say my goodbyes and all the boring stuff, can you tell everyone how they can find you or where they can find you?
So I am available on Instagram, or just type in mediumphormat.com. That's format with a PH instead of an F. And yeah, you can find me on there. All my Instagram, all my social media links are linked on there. You can find my podcast through my website. So mainly on Instagram, because then you can find everything else through there. So that's how you can reach me. Just medium format everywhere.
Awesome. That's nice and simple. You guys should listen to her podcast too. Very, very, like I said, I mentioned this, very genuine, very authentic, very raw.
Yeah.
If I may be so bold to describe it, it's just literally are just sharing everything
Yeah.
that's going in your life, in your not personal life, but your professional life, right? So that's awesome. Hazel, if you have the time, if you can find the time again in the future, I would love to have you back. And
Yeah, absolutely.
really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Well, folks, that's it for today's episode of the Coffee Creators Podcast. I just wanted to send a couple of little, again, housekeeping stuff. So as much as we love doing this Coffee Creators Podcast is not self-sustaining yet, meaning we would very much appreciate it if you could support us by sharing us with your friends and family and rating us wherever you can in whatever platform that you can. And also reach out to us on Instagram at CoffeeWCreators. And you can also send us feedback or messages through the email, which is coffeewithcreatorspodcast@gmail.com. And lastly, we are now on YouTube. So this episode is going to be uploaded to YouTube, which you can check out. Help us reach 100 subscribers, because that'll be easier for me to share. I can just say YouTube/Coffee Creators, but no, not yet. We're almost there though. So help us reach 100 subscribers. But for now, yeah, just type in Coffee Creators Podcast on YouTube, and you should be able to find it. And on behalf of my co-host Chelsea, who is still on vacation, we thank you for listening to this episode, and we hope to have you again next time. Bye.